Hi guys, and welcome back to Robbie's English Harmony video blog. In this video I'm going to provide an answer to a question posed by one of my blog readers called Rimaz. So first of all, thanks Rimaz for asking the question, and now I'm going to proceed with reading it out so that then everyone can hear what the whole thing is about, right? And I will basically respond to every single bit that you've mentioned in your question, right? So let's proceed. The problem is that I just can't practice fluency because I'm in a country where they don't speak English, right? So first things first, a lot of foreign English speakers find themselves in the same boat because, as you can imagine, there's plenty of English learners living in countries where English isn't actually spoken as an official language, and you don't get a lot of opportunities to speak in English-speaking people in real life, right? So some people, well, I would say that not just some, but most people are seeing this as a huge issue because quite naturally, when we think about speaking and conversations and communication and so on and so forth, we think of communicating with other people, right? So there's no other people to speak with. It's a big issue, right? And here's the deal. Personally, I have been developing my fluency, and I don't want to sound like bragging, but I think that I've achieved quite a comfortable level of spoken fluency in English. And guess what? For the most part, I attribute my success to self-practice, Rimaz, right? So you may want to start doing the very same thing. Start speaking in English just on your own. And it doesn't have to be perceived as some sort of a mental thing where you just speak with yourself, right? It's self-practice. You just voice out loud your thoughts. Okay, you can plan your day, you can talk about certain events that happened in the past, you can go through today's events, right? Just talk about it, and then you can prepare for future events such as interviews, or just imagine what the conversation is going to be like when you are actually going to speak with someone, or just discuss something with yourself. Discuss films that you've seen, books that you've read, or just talk about your emotions, what you feel at the moment, your relationships. There's a whole lot of things that you can talk about, and you actually have to perceive it as, just think about it this way. When you go about your daily business, there's something constantly going on in your head, right? You are thinking inwardly in your native language anyway, right? So why not spend about 20-30 minutes of your day, right, and transform that inner thinking process into English thinking process, but think out loud. Well, obviously you wouldn't be doing that when in public, but when you're on your own, there's no reason why you wouldn't be doing that, and there's every reason for you to do so, because in the circumstances that you find yourself in, where there's no other opportunities to speak with other people in real life, that is pretty much the only thing you can do to improve your English fluency. And believe me, I have developed my fluency largely thanks to this self-practice, okay? But let's proceed, and I'll read the rest of your question. Although I'm really good at writing, and I put great efforts on my essays and powerful vocabulary and idioms and sentence structure, yet I panic when I travel out of my country and speak in little conversations. Well, you seem to be surprised about that, and a lot of people are actually confused why it happens. It's quite simple, actually. Think about this, right? Your ability to speak and your ability to write and read are completely different skill sets. And the traditional English teaching system makes us believe as if it's the same thing, right? But in reality, it's a completely different discipline. Speaking, for example, relies on your brain's and your mouth's ability to reproduce naturally occurring speech patterns, right? So if you haven't memorized something and if you're not comfortable using it in an actual speech without much thinking, if that process hasn't been completely automated, you're not going to be able to speak fluently. But when it comes to writing, you don't have to have achieved such level of automation for that writing process to happen, because when you write you can pause, you can think of the best way of putting this or that particular concept in words, and you can swap words around or whatever. And when it comes to reading, it's a whole different story. Comprehension is the easiest part, actually, of the whole language learning process, right? But the traditional English teaching system has done a very, very bad job at making students like you and countless of other students believe that somehow by learning grammar and vocabulary, all of a sudden you're going to become a fluent English speaker and basically a fluent English person in all aspects of fluency, speaking, reading, writing, but it's not the case. Actually, nothing could be further from the truth. And then you go on in your question saying that, and my parents are pissed off because they paid a lot for good education, but the result of fluency speaking is bad. And I actually think that this highlights something that I haven't mentioned on my blog so far, that the education costs a lot of money. And obviously your parents have forked out a small fortune so that you can acquire that good education. But the results actually aren't there when it comes to speaking. And I would imagine that a lot of other people are in the same boat, right? They think, hold on, I've wasted years of my life, and I was the same, right? Years ago, at one particular moment in my life, I realized that I've spent so much on educating myself when it comes to English, but my spoken English hadn't improved by a single bit, right? So obviously something was going on there, something was wrong. And then came the light bulb moment, and I realized that in order to become a good speaker, you have to practice, you have to speak, and you have to learn speech patterns, basically word groups, because all words go together. They form groups, the so-called collocations, right? And excuse me, I'm going to take a sip of water now, because my mouth is getting a bit dry, right? It's not that easy to talk. So yeah, so that's about it. Basically, in order to speak, you have to speak, and in the situation that you're in, spoken self-practice is pretty much the only thing that will help you. And plus, I struggle in reading books, because every sentence I have to stop for a quick Google search to find the meaning of the sentence. Well, when it comes to reading, yes, in the beginning, it is going to be tough. I remember when I was reading my first few books in English, I was the same. I had to look up words, and the whole reading process was lasting for quite some time, and it took me months to finish off a single book. But guess what? If you are persistent, and if you just keep going, ignore those difficulties that you encounter in the very early stages of your reading, believe me, in half year's time, probably it will take you a year or there, you will get there. You will achieve comfortable English reading fluency. And I'm not talking about very complicated books and very complex texts. I'm not talking about some classic literature, which I actually find myself very difficult to read. I'm talking about easy to read books. You have to find what suits you. I would suggest to go with something very easy in the very beginning, something for children maybe. Well, I'm not talking about 3 or 4 year olds, right? Children who just start learning to read. I'm talking about literature that's created for like 10-year-olds, something about science, popular science and things like that, about how the world operates, about animals or whatever, you know. I think you get the drift, the type of books I'm talking about, right? Popular science books, where facts are explained in an easy way, in an easy fashion, and then you can progress onto something that actually is of your interest. Pick some fiction genre that you really like reading in your own native language and do that in English. And if you are persistent enough, you will achieve the fluency in reading. But the thing is that yes, in the beginning it is a struggle? It is. It's not going to be easy. But the thing is, nothing in life worth aiming for is easy, right? There is no easy solution. There is no silver bullet that is going to make you into a fluent English reader within a matter of days, just like that. You will struggle, but then eventually, as you just keep going on and on and on, all those words will just build up in your passive vocabulary, and they will all start making sense. And the way it happens is, say you read something and you come across a word, and then in the beginning you may have to look it up, but then every next time there will be words that will just start making sense, and you won't have to look them all up, right? Say half of the new vocabulary, you will kind of get the feeling as to what it might mean, and then every next time you come across the same words, your brain will just start making sense of them, and then eventually you will achieve a state where you can read in English. But when someone asks you what that particular word means, you won't be able to tell them what it means. But it's fine. You don't have to be able to translate everything. Your goal as an English reader is not to be a translator, you know. You just have to understand the text. And yeah, that's about it. So what is the last thing you're saying there? It's really complicated. Well, it's not complicated, really. It's hard. It's tough. It's hard work. It requires a long time to actually get there to achieve the spoken fluency. The reading fluency can be achieved first, right? But spoken fluency will definitely take you a bit longer. And it is hard work, but if you are really serious about it, you can get there. And I warmly suggest you check out this link, where you can actually see how you can use my blog, where I publish all the information for free, how you can use that in order to kickstart your English fluency improvement. And you also may want to check out the product called the English Harmony System, which I designed with a single goal in mind: help people like you, basically my fellow foreign English speakers who are still struggling with fluency, basically to help you to achieve that English fluency so much faster, because it's all a condensed material. It's all speech exercising lessons, video lessons, right? Whereby you would be required to speak every day, memorize sentences and phrases and collocations, and use them in your speech. So if you are uncomfortable doing the whole spoken English practice, self-practice thing, you may want to check out this product. And as a matter of fact, thousands of my customers are really happy because they have improved their English big time thanks to the English Harmony System. So I hope that you will find my answer helpful, and thanks Rimaz for asking the question, and stick around my blog for more great content to come, right? Chat to you soon. Bye bye.